Hey everyone, I'm Shah. Welcome to a Data Entrepreneurs Workshop. I'm super excited because today Manny is going to be talking about his journey in building and scaling his data analytics consultancy. So the way we're going to do this is Manny's going to do like a short talk, like maybe 10 minutes to give a brief overview of his journey so far. And then we'll have a lot of time for Q&A. So if you guys have specific questions on how he runs his business, we can get into that. So without any further ado, I'll just hand it over to you, Manny.
Thank you so much, Shaw. Welcome, everyone. Definitely was looking forward to sharing my journey with y'all and being able to be a resource to y'all on y'all's journey, whether it's bettering yourself in freelancing or taking it to the next level like I did, or, even going after the big dogs. So let's start it off. A bit of background of me. I was a data scientist, still had my 9 to 5 while I did start my consultancy. I was working in automotive, but before I got that job, I was laid off from oil and gas where I was doing geophysical work. So a little bit still analytics, but more on the oil and gas side. Post that, I still had a lot of analytics skill sets that I wanted to leverage beyond oil and gas. So I started off just looking at freelance stuff, applied to a bunch of jobs that I got rejections on because there was either people with higher degrees than me or they just had way more experience. And that was my first push to figure out like how I could take things into my own hands and learn of Upwork. And there's a bunch of other freelancing sites in which I started with. So that being said, I just want to give that as a foundation of how my journey started. Outside of leveraging the skills that I learned, whether it was via Coursera, Udemy, and even the skills that I did learn in my master's, the main thing was being able to leverage those technical skill sets. So whether it's advertising through Upwork or any other freelance platform, I just put out my visualization skills, my data engineering skills, and some machine learning model skills on my profile, and was able to gain a few traction here and there. Marketing was a big one. And when I say it was a big one, at the time I did not know, but just being able to put yourself out there and market yourself was definitely very important. I did also put a little bit of funds to be able to attend like some coffee events or put myself in a place where I could sell my skills in terms of just conversation, not really coming there with like, hey, let me do this for you, but just like, hey, what are your thoughts on analytics and maybe I could be useful to you. My first ever gig was via Upwork, and that was where I figured out that I could take this thing to the next level where I was going off of an hourly based model. And I was with one of my very first client, and it was a quick visualization of, build a dashboard, none too complex. And seeing how I could make money off of that, continued to push me further into this. There is a bottleneck with Upwork, and I'm sure y'all could definitely relate with it, or other freelance side. Like, it's saturated. There's a lot of us that want to take things out of our 9 to 5. So my thought process was like, how can I take things to the next level? How can I stand out? How can I get clients beyond this profile? And it came to having a presence, not really social media presence is what I was thinking of, but more of a website presence. I looked at companies like Tag Analytics, Kenzie, the big guys and the middle guys, and I saw like they had websites and maybe they're getting tractions through there. And that's why I took some additional investments and made my own website. So I refined my process of the services that I was offering. Instead of just like analytic services, I broke it down into maybe strategic version, infrastructure optimization, data visualization, and on the advanced side with machine learning, predictive model building. And in today's world, some Gen AI stuff has been added to there, but still fairly new. But I refined my services over and over and over, and you could say I A/B tested it. I would reach out to people that were referred to me. I would reach out to people I saw via LinkedIn, or I would hire someone via Upwork to just give me a bunch of over 1,000 plus B2B leads that I needed, and I would email blast them. So that's one way. The next stage of my growth strategy was just taking my networking to the next level. Like Shaw said, met him. And that was one of my big networking opportunities. But on the bigger side, started to attend more, I guess you'd say, premium conferences, you'd say, where I was able to meet some stakeholders and just had a conversation, and that led into potential opportunities. And on the third side is to grow into content marketing. I've been inspired by Shaw and a bunch of other individuals on the LinkedIn platform to see how just putting in information out there could drag potential opportunities, whether it's B2C or it's B2B. Kind of get into the success factor. In my first year, yes, I did start off with Upwork, And if I'm being very transparent, through Upwork, I made a little bit over $10,000. But with the relationships that I built from those individuals and getting references and stuff like that, I was able to finish my first year with a little bit above 150K, partially from Upwork, and then the rest of it was just reference. That wasn't enough for me, but it was enough to see that there was a huge possibility because I was still working my 9 to 5. But I was like, all the money I'm making, let me try and reinvest it from, like I said, the website building and the marketing and sales operations, you'd say. When I started streamlining my offers and putting in better campaigns for email marketing, and I'll say that a lot because that's what I focused on to obtain clients. I saw my revenue in my second year go double, you'd say, a little bit above 350K was where I stood by. And then in my third year, you could imagine that I kept on optimizing my marketing approach and refining my service offerings. I was able to take it to 600K. Now, with that being said, I was not going to be the only one doing this by myself. Primarily, from the get-go, I was the only person doing it myself, but I had to learn delegation, in which I had colleagues that I went to school with. For some people I found via Upwork that I was like, hey, you want to make an extra $5,000, hop on this project with me and X, Y, and Z, which now leads to what's going to be happening today as well. But I'm trying to actually hire full on. My goal would be maybe about 21 data experts, or I may kind of like make it fractional work, but you kind of get the idea of what scaling looks like. And I put that out there to inspire you that if you have the technical skill sets and you're already starting, this is as far as you could go through my experience. There was a lesson learned. Obviously, not everything worked perfectly. I had to change my pricing a lot, starting from the hourly. The first hour price that I put on there was $40 an hour. And eventually I scaled my Upwork price to, I believe I put it at $120 an hour. But that wasn't what was like getting me the opportunities. Coming with a full-on package of whether it was a data visualization project or machine learning building project, or was infrastructure optimization project, or it could have just been the strategy version. I put more of a competitive price in. I did some research against my competitors, you'd say. So when I say competitors, I look at the size that I wanted to grow in, and I paid a little bit extra to figure out like what is their average price, you'd say, and I try to use some ChatGPT to also help me even be more competitive too. So being very transparent in there. And I was able to put a good pricing strategy that when I spit it out, it didn't scare clients away. But I didn't just sell it only on the strategy. I also sold it more on the value proposition that came with there. The other part was time management. With the fact of just influx of potential new opportunities being one person, I didn't kind of account for that, like in that scalable motion, but being able to delegate was very important. Delegate and managing the amount of time that it took for those individuals to finish the work. And also on the client side, being able to maintain a good relationship by putting in proper deadlines and time management with them too. Work-life balance. I do have a daughter, and that occupies a lot of my time, but I've also been labeled as someone that spends day and night behind the screens. But being able to still see what matters the most outside of the work. As much as I love my business, I wanted to make sure I did a better job in things outside of my business. So trying to do work-life balance was very big, which is also why I left my 9 to 5 to fully focus on the business and also have more time towards my family. Some future outlooks that I'm planning to go with at least this foundation of success is bringing in AI integration. So obviously there's the buzzwords, but then there's also the real life use cases. So I'm trying to verse myself in it. But in terms of, I speak on the word delegation, my goal was to now figure out other people that I could bring within as a partner or something of that nature to be able to help me take the AI integration and other future outlooks into perspective. Edge computing, ethical data use cases. I've partnered with, made decisions with partnering with some very, you'd say, knowledgeable people in that case. So although obviously I had to pay for stuff like that, but being able to delegate those kind of deeper work into other people, other experts' point of view and make my work easier. Again, that comes with scaling. If I were to start over, again, instead of failing forward the way I did, I would look at these three different aspects. Building the infrastructure. So that goes from your digital presence outside of social media and all that. A website. Whenever I speak to people about the business and all of that, I always find myself saying, check out my website, check out my website. And that was a good place for them to just understand the services we offer and how it could be beneficial for that. Now, through that website, I could put stuff like more use cases and all that could definitely trickle down into a consultation or potential implementation project. Outside of your digital presence, having the proper operation strategy, and operation being, in this case, if you already have the skill sets, what you just need is sales, operation, marketing and operations, and you call it your client maintenance operations, you'd say. And so the biggest one is the sales and marketing aspect, because if you don't have any clients, you can't really manage them at that point. So emphasizing on a strategy, whether it's investing into learning about it or bringing in people that could help you out with those operations would definitely play a big part. The second part would be the services that you offer. Like I said, I started off with just an hourly, kind of just seeing, like testing the waters, you say. It's kind of like I throw a net out there, and whatever I could catch is what I now use to refine my process. I would do more research on the services that's in demand and what it takes to even get there. So for example, as much as we say AI is in demand, the data infrastructure is definitely very important, and that's something that needs to be brought in. But just really getting yourself like knowledgeable and versed in everything that could come from the work that you do, and putting it into a package step by step that you could then sell to clients. Because when you meet clients, some of them may just be in the early stage where they're still using Excel. They may need to get them into a cloud infrastructure, or they already have cloud infrastructure and maybe their dashboard sucks that you just need to come in there and optimize it. Or maybe they're on that side and they just need, more on the advanced analytics and AI stuff that you can now bring services in there. And last but not least is the legal setup. And I should have put taxes here too, because that was another big thing. I forgot to pay my taxes the first year, but that was new to me. But we'll say legal setup and taxes. But being able to register yourself as a legitimate businesses in today's world, there's so many tools that could help you make that. Obviously for a price, and but it takes the paperwork away and all that, and you get to manage anything legal that has to do with your business through there. I personally used Inkfile, but I think now they're called Busy or something like that. But I've seen a bunch of other ones that do the same. In terms of your documentation, your contracts, your NDAs, and all that, most of these platforms have the basic that you need. But I would also recommend, if you have a legal friend, I have a sister that's actually in the legal industry, so I leverage her. But if I didn't have, I would look for someone or a service that could definitely make that accessible to myself. And last but not least would be taxes. You don't want to end up on the bad side of the IRS. So just making sure you take care of all that and keep your business in good standing. Did make that as quick as possible because I wanted to leave as much time for y'all to do Q&A and ask me a bunch of, I guess, more in-depth questions that I could bring some transparency to.
Yeah, well, let's quickly thank Manny for kind of running through his journey and just dropping little nuggets. So let's open up for Q&A. I've got a bunch of questions here, but if you guys have questions, I want to prioritize those. So feel free to raise your hand. So I guess while the gears are turning, it sounded like that transition from hourly to these service-based packages was like the major tipping point. Like maybe that's what really allowed you to scale because you only have so many hours in the week, but then doing these services, I guess it kind of allowed you to go to that 350,000 and then 600,000 and, is allowing you to go beyond that as well. So I'm just curious, like, how did you make that decision? Like, what was that transition like? What were like the key factors you were taking into consideration in making that call of like what services to offer and how to package them and how to price them, all that kind of stuff?
For sure. I'll definitely give, first of all, credit on the Upwork side, because through there you have a lot of data points that would show you what is the most common. So, while I was on Upwork, I kind of was on there day and night. And what I saw a lot was a lot of business intelligence opportunities. Very rarely did I see the predictive side on the advanced analytics and stuff like that. This was like 2 years, 3 years ago or whatever, and maybe things have changed. But using Upwork to see what was mostly in demand, and a lot of it was infrastructure and business intelligence, and that's where my decision came from. If I could just package this and make it repeatable, I guess that's the other factor in there. I got tired of always having to re-explain value proposition and really tied in, in all the services that we're doing, there's a skeletal value proposition that's there. You know, you generate the data, you collect it, you store it, you put it into a cloud system, and then you start leveraging it, whether from a dashboard or advanced analytics approaches, right? And just kind of seeing that on, I was just thinking about like, how can I just make this repeatable? And when I'm doing my email campaigns, I don't want to have to do it very personalized. I just wanted to kind of just put something out there that made more sense. So that's where it came from. And the other side was the fact that not everyone was very keen to go with a higher hourly compensation, right? So, you know, maybe when I was putting at $40 an hour, I was easily accessible. But then as I grew in my experience and confidence and I started increasing my hourly rate, there was a lot of resistance in there. Anyone that's used Upwork before, you know, there's the bidding process, and outside of having the experience, you know, put yourself on the client side. If you find a way to save a bit more money from an hourly perspective, you would want to. So what I decided to do was look at the out of each service and attach a dollar value to it. So now when I'm selling, I'm not just putting like, okay, yeah, this is going to cost you $10,000. X, Y, and Z. I more go for this is the value, and then this is the price tag that's in there. So to be able to tell that story, I had to take away the hourly aspect. Doesn't mean I don't have an hourly wage today, but I put it as a strategic way of saying, hey, it's just better to go with the package too, right?
So Upwork was, you're getting a lot of exposure to the demands of the market, and then you're kind of boiling down to the core value proposition, like the value we're generating. And then, you know, there was a problem in pricing hourly, is that it's like the psychology of people. It's like, oh, wow, $120 an hour, like that's too much. That sounds expensive. And, you know, I guess there's uncertainty and ambiguity. It's like, okay, how many hours translates to the outcome I care about? And so it kind of leads to negotiation. But if you just make the offer the outcome, you're basically the service is, you're going to get this outcome, and then this is how much it's going to cost you. It's a lot clearer value proposition and easier to close the client. So we are getting a lot of questions in the chat now. So this is great to see. So keep them coming. We've got time, like another 20, 25 minutes. So we've got a lot of time for Q&A. Ken asked, what have been the biggest lessons learned?
Biggest lessons learned is delegation. Well, there's multiple, but delegation is a big one. You know, when you start getting traffic and putting out like your reputation, you'd say, you have to be ready to have people, if you can't do it yourself, right? You have to be ready to have people to serve to that need, and have, not just regular people, like, you know, people that you know would actually get the work done in a timely manner. So delegation is definitely a big one, and it's something that I'm moving forward with in 2025 and above, is to get out of the mind. I'm sure all of us as technical individuals can relate to where you see something and you know you could do it yourself. So most of the time you kind of like lean with doing it yourself. But the reality is, like, you know, from a technical aspect, that's, you know, going on the business side, learn to step away from, I guess you could put it as your pride, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, and let other people who sometimes are even better at doing it than you, let them do what they do best too. So yeah, definitely delegation.
I guess a lot of technical people, they love the coding and stuff, but I guess you wouldn't be where you are today if you were still coding everything yourself. You'd still be at the $150,000 mark.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, you know, it also buys you time, right? I would say from stepping away, it's let my brain kind of, in my dad's word, he said, let your brain sweat. But my brain has sweated to different ideas and approaches that I could then put some time, even with my technical skill, I actually go maybe build a PLC and then gets on to take it from that PLC to the next level. But yeah.
Lucas asked for your website, so I'm just going to share Terbullion's website. That's his consultancy. Claudia asked, what advice do you have on converting customers from discovery call to proposal and pricing? I guess this is a tricky transition point. You got them on the free call and trying to close them on the contract. Any advice there?
Yeah, again, focusing on the value proposition is always the biggest thing. When you hop on that consultation side, you get to really, I would assume your main goal is to identify the pain points, like really end up putting yourself in the shoes of the client and figuring out how to properly relate your solutions to their needs. That would be the biggest thing, because I've definitely lost a lot of potentials when I was learning that aspect of putting the value first before doing anything. But the second part would be, and not everyone's going to be fortunate to do this, but when you're putting in your packages, you want to make sure you're covering end to end. And I'll give a quick story of a client that I lost. And it was because of this reason. So they saw the value proposition. This was a private equity client. They saw the value proposition that I was offering with the services, but what had let me end up losing them was because I did not cover end to end. So as much as I had what they needed, they also needed like what do you call it, post implementation. So just pretty much managed solution. So the solution I built, who's going to look after it? And that's not something that was on my table. That's not something that I learned via Upwork or any of that experience. So again, failing forward. But to answer your question, offering a full on end to end. So if you can't cover that, I also recommend like teaming up and partnering with people or other entities that will be able to do that too.
So Claudia dropped a few more questions. So let's work through these. What services do you offer for machine learning? Do you offer model implementation?
Did you ask that question again?
She's asking about like machine learning services. So I know a lot of it is like data infrastructure and stuff, but I guess like, do you like build models for people and implement that? And like, what does that look like?
Yes, definitely. But before doing that, most of the time that's where majority of the clients end up like wanting to be. But I always tell them before they do that, what does their infrastructure look like? But upon having that proper, stack in their data system out there, then we now move into that. I have done model development and implementation for a couple of clients, but most of my clients end up with infrastructure and visualization first before moving into the advanced side.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You can't really build a model if you don't have any data. How do you upskill yourself fast enough to be able to contribute to their code base? I'm guessing the question here is, if they have like established technology or code that they have, or like a technology stack, how do you kind of upskill so you can learn or like work within their technology ecosystem?
That's a good question, and that's a rare occurrence that I've ever faced. But in the lifetime that's come across, just being versatile, number one, being open-minded. As much as I could say that my solution makes sense, I want to hear what they have first, and if I'm going to tell them if we build on top of that, there has to be a reason, or if I tell them to deviate from that, there has to be a reason. I like to consider myself very versed in the skill sets of what I bring to the table. But if I have to bring someone else that would be able to see the vision. So let's say, most of my solutions are in Python, but they were using R, but the methodologies and stuff is something that I have in terms of the advisory service. I would look for an R expert and verse them into it, get them up to speed, and then bring them into the project.
So it's rare that you'll come across a technology stack that is like completely foreign that you can't even touch. But if it does come up, you can always, bring someone on board. One more question from Claudia. How do you protect yourself / prevent mistakes and causing bugs in production? I guess, how do you avoid headaches, technical headaches?
I mean, in my opinion, it goes by what you offer in the first place. I don't offer those just, if anything is a quick win, there's chances that it's going to have bugs and it may not be truly scalable and all that. So before even engaging in anything, we like to make sure the foundation is set straight and it's able to scale with very low to no bugs. There's always going to be bugs here and there, but I like to keep it as straightforward as possible.
So basically just like making sure you have that solid data infrastructure and that stuff done it so many times. And because it's like this singular offer or this like main offer that you've had a lot of reps and you've seen a lot of different things. So the probability of having a bug or an issue come up is very low. But I guess, Claudia, maybe if you're thinking building custom ML projects for each individual client, I can imagine that this is where more bugs will come up because you're not doing like a copy paste service. And I guess that's just like a judgment call you have to make. Like it's going to be more difficult to scale that business versus a business like what Manny's doing of just like this kind of cookie cutter data infrastructure services, I guess mostly using Databricks.
Yeah.
Right. So you want it to be as predictable and repeatable as possible for scalability. But I guess building, custom ML projects is fun for a wide range of clients.
I would also add to that, and again, this goes back to where I'm not saying depth to your subject matter expertise, but then when you think about scaling and all that, you have to put what's needed out there first before yourself. So, again, more focused on my subject matter expertise was data science. That's what I was doing in my 9 to 5. Building models was pretty much my, sweat and blood kind of thing. But going into data infrastructure, the advisory side, data engineering is something that I had to start learning and put myself in a good position and surround myself with people that knew better on those on that end to be able to market myself better. But yeah, I had to kind of kill a lot of as much as the fun stuff in ML development and the outcomes that it came into. What I saw was more common and the services that I could provide where the demand for it was on the infrastructure and the visualization side before we get into the ML stuff. So I still do ML stuff for fun and hopefully to bring, potential products in there. But whatever the demand is out there, there's money attached to it. That's where I'll be.
We got a question from John. How can you find out the high value projects? I ask because I want to position myself to get traction or traffic on my profile, Upwork profile. So I guess picking out projects or kind of crafting your profile in a way that you can attract those high profile or high value projects. If I misinterpreted the question, John, feel free to give more context or come off mute or something like that.
This is John. Thank you so much for putting this together. So even for small projects, it's fine. I want to build reputation because I have reputation myself from working for companies, but I want to build reputation as a solo person.
Oh, so building out your portfolio, you mean projects that are high value that.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Any thoughts there, Manny?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I'll say, and if we're speaking specifically to Upwork, 9 times out of 10, the projects that I always saw on there were dashboard development. And, that'll be a great place to stand out. So, but obviously there's saturations, but, you just have to have confidence in yourself. The type of insights that you want your dashboard to build, focus on the ones that are very common, which in my perspective, what I saw was sales dashboard, marketing dashboards, operational dashboards, and financial. Now there'll be some custom stuff. So if you're looking at maybe products, someone has a product out there and they just want to understand the user journey and churn and stuff like that, then you start, building a little bit more unique dashboards in that case. But just look at what the demand is out there and make your portfolio covering majority of those demands, you'd say. So instead of kind of use the data to help you decide on that. So if I go on Upwork today and I search up visualization and I see, maybe 20 visualization projects and I get deep dive into each of them, and I'm seeing it's about operations or it's on sales or it's on marketing or it's on product, I would build, test dummy data dashboards, you'd say, and advertise that on my portfolio. Does that make sense?
It does. So the way you find the demand is by searching,
100%. Is they're giving you the free data there. So and today, we have ChatGPT to where copy and paste into an Excel sheet and just tell it to analyze the text for you, and you should be able to get insights off of that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
That's good insight. Good question, John. Malik asked, how did you get your first client outside of Upwork? Was it references, cold calling, social media?
It was a reference, and it came from my very first client. I guess it goes back to the relationship that you build. And, when I like to pride myself on just not only bringing the technical aspect, but when I'm conversing with these individuals and breaking things down that maybe they had a utopia idea in, but, being respectful and bringing it down to reality and also fulfilling the value proposition that I promised, they may end up not needing my services maybe post 4 months or so, and which was the case. After 4 months, I was able to help them bring on 2 people into their team. But upon that, they referenced me to another client and was like, hey, this dude doing this, met him through Upwork. This was the testimonial we had and X, Y, and Z. And that's how I got the next client. And that same strategy helped me get the next client. But For me, that was a little bit of a wait game. You say, hey, if you have any references down, and they just kind of wait. So I wanted to take things into my own hands and do my own cold outreach. Specifically, cold email was what I did. I haven't done a cold call at all, but I may consider that into my new journey.
I'm curious about the cold calling. First, it was just referrals. Like you got one client and they referred you to another client and it kind of dominoed effect. But then cold outreach, like doing these cold emails, allowed you to take control of your client acquisition.
100%.
So I guess how did you get started in that? Like how did you start taking those early steps from transitioning to referrals to cold emailing, which is a very different acquisition strategy?
Yeah, most definitely. It started with my circle just questioning like the long-term aspect. To put his words into perspective, it was like you can't rely on referrals forever. Like if you want to take Terrabullion to this stage, X, Y, and Z, you need to figure out how to have an acquisition system. And I started asking him questions because he was a sales individual. And he started giving me more ideas on that end. And that's where I decided to try new things. Did the YouTube search, the Google search, the ChatGPT search, everything in there. And that's how I put my own first version of outreach in there. I found a bunch of tools, LinkedIn Navigator, what's the other? I'm trying to think of the other ones that's out there. Prospeo, and a bunch of Apollo. And there's like so many different ones, but through there, from getting your potential candidate and to doing it at a mass, to a mass audience, was where I had to lean on to next.
Yeah, that's awesome. We got a lot of questions here. So Param asked, how do you strive to provide solutions to your clients in a win-win manner?
Well, for starters, I'll put it like this. The clients that I've got, there's other people proposing to them, and what led me to win was a better price strategy, number one. It's not rocket science once you learn. I'm very sure that majority of things that I do, most of y'all can do too. I didn't get my knowledge from a, unique place, you'd say. But it's how you present the offer, the relationship you've built, and also to kind of put it into perspective of pricing matters a lot. Because I'll give you a story. One of the clients that I won back in 2023 was a private equity company. And what happened was they were approached by the big guys, McKinsey and X, Y, and Z. And when they told me, yeah, they have this pain point, but then they also have the pricing pain point of where they're charging $200K, $300K, whatever, and they're bringing in all these individuals that's not really needed. That's why I said, okay, let me put myself as a unique solution where we're not charging just because we're bringing in 20 people. We're charging by the value that we bring to your organization directly. And just being transparent in that aspect was what let me win. And that's what I've been doing with any potentially new clients and all that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Let's see, we got another question from John. Did you build your website or someone did it for you?
Someone did it for me. Again, Upwork is a very valued place to find other talents. That was not my very first website. My very first website was a single page, and that was just enough to get the information I needed out there. It was very cost effective. I'll tell you that. Even that current website, although there were some mistakes that were made, when you're taking it to the next level, you're considering the user journey and all that. And it also came from some web analytics projects that I'd done to considering all that is what led me to figure out what I need to do next with my website. So just food for thought when you're considering putting yourself out there.
Did they use a framework like WordPress or?
Yes. My website is WordPress. It was mapped out in Figma. That's why I went through the different variations to be able to get it to where it is today.
Another question on the cold emailing. Let's see, Zoom info is pretty expensive to get the list from. Any suggestions on where to find your custom potential client list based on your service offerings?
Well, first, I would say understanding who your typical profile would be. You think about who controls the approval most of the time and who would be really enticed about analytics solutions, you'd say. So before I really had no profile, I was just kind of just jetting it out there. But over time, I started seeing the people that were responding was, people were in the VP role or CIO role, or they just owned their company. And, there'll be some that would kind of be managers in the company and they just needed to outsource a project here and there. But just understanding the profile at the end of the day is step one. Step two, you can pay someone to go do that, or you can invest in tools that would be able to help you scrape for individuals that fall under there. And places you can look at would be Crunchbase. Again, I mentioned LinkedIn Navigator. There's Apollo, and I think someone that brought one in here. I think it was like Elite IQ. I come across that one, but I never tried it yet. But so many different tools that could help you obtain lead information, but just being able to understand the profile of that lead and what solutions you're advertising to them. So I'm not just only shooting out, like if I'm going for analytics and marketing, I'm looking at VP of marketing. I'm looking at chief marketing officers kind of individuals to be able to like identify the pain point that I blast out to them and hopefully get a return.
All right. So you start with your offer, and then you kind of figure out the profile that you want to go after. And then you want to start thinking about, okay, what tool, what platform do I use to get these contacts?
Yeah.
All right. So we got Fritz asked, would you recommend Clay and Instantly as cold and warm outreach tools? Tons of great content on YouTube on how to use these. Any experience with these tools?
No, I've not used Clay before. I've heard of Instantly and I've seen a couple videos on there, but they kind of all fall within the same bracket in today's world. I'll say go with the one that's more budget friendly, but actually has the bells and whistles that you need. As a technical individual, if you do have the time, there's a lot of things that you could, that's offered as custom, or, like it's the add-on that you could do yourself and then use like their lowest tier to be very budget friendly.
Question from David, how much is your domain expertise utilized with the services you offer? For example, you used to be in oil and gas, and there are a lot of clients. Are a lot of your clients in oil and gas, or they belong to other industries?
No, my client demographic is on all industries. So I put it like this. I don't like to pigeonhole myself in the services that I offer. All business units exist in pretty much all businesses. So you have your sales department, you have your marketing, you have your financial. So the industry matters, but don't let that stop you from who your outreach is. I never had a background in e-commerce or private equity, or my background was oil and gas and automotive manufacturing, but I didn't let that limit me on who I should reach out to. Outside of that, just because you don't have the experience doesn't mean you can't go get it. Today's world, we have ChatGPT again, and you could learn quite a lot in the updated models, right? You could actually have it referenced. So if I'm reading on some white paper stuff that's supposed to be happening in a specific industry and all that, I would get myself up to speed in it. And then I'll do more research on how my services could apply specifically to that industry and solve its pain points.
Well, I think we're right up on time, and we had a lot of great questions. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Manny on LinkedIn. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any other questions that you have after the event's over. And with that, I'm going to thank Manny once again for the awesome talk. Going to give him a little clap here. And then thank you guys in the audience for joining us. Yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks again.